She had been planning this wedding for 11 months. 11 months of dress fittings, flower arrangements, seating charts, and late nights, convincing herself that the uneasy feeling sitting quietly in her chest was just nerves, and not the truth she was not yet ready to face. Her name was Isabel Weston, 28 years old, American, quietly brilliant, and on the most important morning of her life, she was sitting alone in a dressing room in London, holding 3 photographs of her fiancé with another woman, taken 2 weeks before their wedding, at their restaurant. The one he said was only theirs. She did not scream. She did not break anything. She simply sat very still, in her ivory gown, flowers in her hair, chapel full of 300 waiting guests, and thought about her mother. Her mother, who had died when Isabel was 9 years old, who used to hold her face in both hands and say, "My darling, the women in our family do not break, we bend, and then we come back stronger than whatever tried to break us." Isabel had not thought about those words in years. She thought about them now. She placed the photographs carefully inside her bouquet, and she walked toward the chapel. Thomas Calloway stood at the altar looking exactly like a man who believed he was about to get away with something clean. His mother Catherine sat front row in cream Chanel, pearls, composure, and the particular expression of a woman counting down to a moment she had already rehearsed. Catherine Calloway had never hidden her feelings about Isabel. Not with cruelty. The British upper class rarely used cruelty directly. They used silence, small exclusions, the careful positioning at every family dinner, where Isabel always ended up, slightly outside the warmth of the circle. Charm is not legacy, Catherine had once told Thomas within Isabel's hearing. Isabel had smiled and said nothing. She was good at that. The organ began. Morning light came through the stained glass and painted color across the stone floor. 300 guests rose. And then Catherine stood up, not at the moment reserved for objections. Earlier, deliberately, her voice carrying the calm of someone who had never once in her life been told she could not do something. "I apologize for interrupting," she said, turning to face the congregation. "But this family deserves the truth before this marriage is made permanent." Complete silence. Isabel Weston came into our family with charm and very little else. No British connections, no standing, no background that reflects what the Calloway name has taken 3 generations to build. She paused, letting every word land. "My son deserves better, and I will not watch this family make a decision it will regret for the rest of its life." 300 people held their breath. Thomas said nothing, and that silence, his silence, told Isabel everything she had spent 11 months refusing to believe. He had known. He had known his mother was going to do this, and he had stood at that altar anyway. Isabel felt something shift inside her chest, not breaking exactly, more like a door closing, quietly, finally, on a room. She should have left a long time ago. She thought of her mother again. "We do not break, we bend, and then we come back." She reached into her bouquet. "Before we continue," Isabel said, her voice so steady it frightened several people in the front row, "I think there are things this family deserves to know as well." She placed the 3 photographs on the altar. These were taken 2 weeks ago, at Chateau Blanc in Mayfair. She looked at Thomas. "You took me there on our first anniversary. You told me it was our place." The color left his face. "The woman in these photographs has been in your life for 4 years. Isabel continued quietly. "2 of those years and we were together. Not a single person in that chapel moved." Isabel turned to face the congregation. "Catherine is right about one thing," she said. "I came into this family with no British connections. My father is American. He built his company alone in New York, starting with nothing but 1 desk and 1 phone, because the people who were supposed to support him decided he was not good enough either. A breath. His name is Robert Weston. His company is Weston Capital, and for the past 6 years, without a single public announcement, Weston Capital has held the majority investment position in Calloway Group." Somewhere in the congregation, someone whispered. Catherine Calloway's hand moved very slightly toward her pearls. My father never told your family who I was, Isabel said, because I asked him not to. I wanted Thomas to choose me for myself, not for my last name. Her voice stayed level, calm, her mother's daughter entirely. He made his choice. Now my father will make his. She picked up her bouquet from the altar, looked at Thomas one final time, not with hatred, not with tears, but with the specific quiet of a woman releasing something she had held far too long. I genuinely hope, she said softly, that she was worth all of this. And Isabel Weston walked back down that aisle, through 300 silent witnesses, and out through the chapel doors into the gray London morning. Her father was already outside. He had not been invited inside. Isabel had asked him to wait, just in case. He had never asked why. He simply said yes, the way he had always simply said yes to whatever his daughter needed, without requiring explanation. That was the thing about Robert Weston that the Calloway family had never understood about Isabel. She had not grown up with wealth making her hard. She had grown up with a father who made her feel like the most important person in every room, and that had made her the kind of woman who never needed anyone's approval to know her own worth. He stepped out of the car the moment he saw her face. No questions, no words. He simply opened his arms. And for the first time since she found the envelope, for the first time since she sat alone in that dressing room in her ivory gown holding photographs of a man she had trusted completely, Isabel Weston allowed herself one single moment of falling apart. Just 30 seconds with her face against her father's shoulder while London moved quietly around them. Then she straightened, wiped her eyes once with the back of her hand, and stepped back. Pull everything, she said quietly. Robert looked at his daughter for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone. Pull everything, he said. Today, all of it. He ended the call. Opened the car door. Isabel paused before getting in. She looked back once at St. Margaret's Chapel, the roses still, visible through the open doors, the champagne still cooling in silver buckets, 300 people still sitting inside trying to understand what had just happened to the Calloway family. Then she got into the car. As they pulled away from the curb, her phone lit up on the seat beside her. Thomas, Catherine, 3 Calloway board members, all within 90 seconds. Isabel turned her phone face down. Outside, London passed the windows, gray and golden and completely unmoved. Her father reached across and placed his hand over hers without a word. She looked at him. He looked at her. And in that quiet, in that car moving through a city that did not know or care about ivory gowns or shattered trust or 300 witnesses, Isabel remembered something else her mother used to say. The women in our family always land on their feet, my darling, because we never forgot how to stand up. Across the city, in the offices of Weston Capital on the 43rd floor, a single instruction was already moving silently through the financial system. The Calloway Group had 30 days. They just didn't know it yet, but they would.